This is a guide to the mid-game of Civilization V, particularly in the using the Lek Mod, multiplayer mod that's played in the No Quitters Steam group. And it's a guide a lot of people have been asking me for. They want to know, why are they falling apart in mid-games? They have a strong early game, or so they think. And they just feel like they fall apart in the mid-game. They lose direction. They don't know what to do. And so this guide is kind of meant as a how-to for those middle turns. Between about, turn 50 when you finish your opening policy tree. So in this case it was tradition for me. And then about into turn 100 when you're at factories, when you're at public schools. And just, what are the priorities? What things should you be teching? What things should you be building during that middle span of the game? That, after the early game, of course, is the second most important. First, I would have to say that normally when people say they have mid-game problems, what they really have is early game problems. That is, the problems they are having that they think are in the mid-game are actually a cause of their slow start. So that they're slower to universities, they're slower to their national epic, or their national college, they're slower to aqueducts, they're slower to workshops, they're slower to universities. And so at turn 80 when they're doing poorly, they think it's because of their mid-game play, but really, it was their early game play. So first I would suggest, if you haven't read it already or watched the video, look at my early game guide. I've got a link in the video description here for it. As for the mid-game, what makes it different from the early game is that essentially you are taking your start and looking towards the rest of the game. You've already picked your starting policies. You've already got a sort of a good idea of what those first 50 turns look like. And now you're sort of heading towards ideology. You're heading towards things like public schools, factories, research labs. And this is essentially the part of the game where the game is decided. Your actions in the mid-game more or less determines who wins. By the time you sort of reach that turn 100, turn 110, the game has mostly been decided. You can typically guess who's going to win at that point. So it is important. And it is important to know what to do. So far in the start of the game, I've done something what I outlined in the written guide. That is, I went civil service first as tradition to get the extra food on these freshwater farms. Very important for tradition's growth because that's the whole sort of crux of your ability as tradition, is getting that per city growth up. And after that I'm going to build my national college. I didn't rush my national college because I'm on 5 cities here. And I wanted to make sure I had the watermill and the granary up in this city before I built my library. Essentially what you're focusing on in your cities in the middle part of the game is growth. You want all your cities to have nice high food per turn and also have enough happiness to continue to grow them. So if you look at the yields in my cities so far, I'll have to wait till the end of the turn. If you look at the yields in my cities so far, all of them are above 15 food per turn. That is quite substantial. Now this is helped by the fact that I have 1, 2, 3 city-state allies that are growth city-states, maritime city-states. And while that's of course fortunate, it's also going to inform my policy choice here in a second. So I'm improving these freshwater farms, getting them worked, so I can grow even more. making sure I'm building my coliseums so I have enough food. Or have enough happiness to grow into. Because I am growing quite rapidly here. Just lagging a bit here. For those of you who don't know, my computer is pretty legendarily bad. So this is actually the first wonder I've built all game. If you've watched my wonder guide, you should know I generally don't think very highly of wonders. And this kind of bears that strategy out. If you look at my demos here, 200 food, 100 hammers, turns 62 as 5 city tradition. That is very strong, considerably strong. So now I can get my National College. It's a bit of a delay. Turn 67 is not very fast, but that I've got these 5 cities, it's worth it. I don't want to delay growing in my expanse just for the sake of science in my camp. I have another trade route available. You really want to be sending trade routes internally so that you can grow. Like I said earlier, it's all about food in the early game. Because food in the long run is itself hammers, it's science, and that's what you need to stay relevant and to essentially challenge the leaders of the game. I'm going to send this trade route to keep Panama City as an ally. And also I will be going into patronage shortly. I lost happiness there because of my double trade. This is why I was building all those coliseums. It might have looked like I had a lot of happiness, but I knew that I was running out. Keep improving these freshwater farms. Keep growing. Okay, like I outlined in the written guide, the general tech path for tradition I think that is the strongest, or certainly the safest, is to go first civil service, then metal casting, then education. This means that when I actually get to education, all my cities will be large enough so that they can all work their scientist spots immediately and really get the benefit out of those universities. Note that I've got my cities on production focus, and as I'm improving my freshwater food tiles, I'm unlocking them manually. This is very important. In my expands, I'm generally trying to build culture buildings first, because I really want to get into tradition, or get into patronage quickly, and get the benefits from that. So this one's going to Panama to keep it as an ally. Perfect. In general, your priority when building these sort of less crucial buildings, that is the buildings that aren't science buildings, they aren't production buildings, is generally you want to go happiness if you need it, because happiness is its own growth and production. And then, if not happiness, you want to think, what am I missing at the moment? I've got a lot of faith, temples aren't a big priority. So amphitheaters for culture is good. Maybe even gold is good. Great person generation gardens, important. I've got guruship here as my religion, so I want to be working specialist slots, and I also want some faith. I'm about to enhance. I'd like to get a missionary soon, so I'm building temples here after my amphitheaters is my priority. I don't really need gold at the moment. So I finished the aqueduct here, workshop, and now that I'm finished metal blasting, I'll head to education. It's unfortunate I can't get this quest done because nobody has coral, but in general, something you want to be looking for is the chance to get your King's Day quests in your cities. For example, pearls is available here.
Saluti.
I can just trade him anything. I can trade the Amber. It's actually my regional. It's my 4 extra happiness. Think about this. This city is 20 food. It's going to get a 25% bonus from that. So that's an extra 5 food. Just fulfilling that quest is like getting hanging gardens in this city. That's so strong. And this is also the city I'm going to build my Writer's Guild in. So having the extra growth here is quite important. Keep improving the freshwater farms. Now I can also work in my workshop to get an engineer in 13 turns. How about the granary as well? Speed that up a bit. Now I'm picking patronage for. I've got a lot of city-states near me. This policy is going to give me a lot of extra food and production and gold, and I'm going to get the benefits from being allied with these city-states. Look at the city-state selection. 3 maritime, a culture, and mercantile right next to me. 4 maritime, actually. There's a lot of potential there. I could send this to Kizel right now. I think I want to grow my capital again first. Generally, that's your focus for those first 100 turns, is you're sending trade routes to your capital. Because of the benefits of having a large capital, you get gold from your city connections, and you get, in tradition, you get extra happiness, of course. I'm enhancing. I'll just pick whatever. Defender. When you're designing your religion, you generally want to design whatever it is you're weakest at. So here, I'm thinking my culture's not great. I can use a little extra culture for temples. Normally I pick happiness because it's the hardest thing to get a hold of. I'm going to have a lot of happiness this game, I reckon, with all these city-state allies. Sort of running out of tiles here. I don't want to be growing into a tile like that. I want to buy help. Help production level up in that city. You want to be balancing production and growth in your cities, because you want your cities to grow, but you also don't want your cities to fall behind in making production important infrastructure. So I was sending this trade route to this city because it needed a bit of growth. It's looking pretty good right now. So I could send it to Kizzle. Or I could grow this city. Or I could grow this city. But I've got so much extra growth. Again, I'm trying to think of what are my weaknesses? What can I improve? I've got so much growth in my cities. I think I'll send it to Kizzle. Improve my production. Or improve my culture. Get to this policy a bit faster. So turn 72 education. That's pretty fast. Most people won't be able to get that fast. That's all right. But do be aware that if you're just doing straight sim, not going for any wonders, not going out of your way, and you get to education, turn 78 or turn 79, it's probably a sign that you need to improve your early game play. Like I said, most problems people think they have with their mid game are actually problems with their early game. So keep that in mind. So I'm getting an education now. All my cities are already over 10 pop, which means that when I build my unis, they'll build quickly, and when I finish them, they'll immediately be able to work university slots. That's very strong. Next, I'm heading towards industrialization. I want my ideology quickly. Generally, I think that's a strong play. Regardless, just because factories are such a strong building, and getting your ideology quicker is quite beneficial. But I'm also going to be able to get leaning tower here, and that's a very strong wonder for me. I have an engineer in 7 turns, so I'll have that fairly soon. Again, I'm not going to hard build any wonders in this playthrough, I don't think. Just partly to show that they're not really necessary. They're optional. And too many Civ players get, especially newer players, they get too focused on the wonders. And they don't properly value the infrastructure they need. So generally, as you're teching up to industrialization, sort of your tech path just determines what you want. Like for example, I think I'm going to build the ironworks first, so I'll go machinery first. But if I had an engineer for Notre Dame, for example, I might go that first. Or if I wanted to get Alhambra, I'd go that first. If you don't think you'll get leaning tower, banking first for the extra trade road's nice. There are lots of options. You don't want to do exactly the same thing every game. You want to think, what does my game need? What am I lacking? What will benefit me the most? Here I am, immediately working the slots because my city's big enough. person generation. Very nice. Keep improving the freshwater tiles. Autopass wants a road. I can do that. So, it's good to take opportunities where you can to do this sort of micromanagement. Like here I noticed I'm 3 food short of growing, so I can just do that, go this turn instead. I'm gonna take that tile back. That city still needs growth. I can work an artist guild instead. Should have my units in my cities, but I'm being lazy. Again, I noticed that I'm 1 short, so unwork that tile for a turn, so I can get a missionary cavalry. Going through a bit quickly, missing some things. I actually want my ironworks first. Your national wonders are your most important wonders. They're the wonders that generally have quite good returns on them unless you're very wide liberty. And of course they aren't contested. There's no opportunity, there's no cost, there's no risk involved. Which is quite nice. Get workers down for that road. So my demos are looking very good. This would obviously be a strong bait most players would have. But the principles sort of remain the same. The way I mentally approach this game is no different than I outlined in the guide. Specifically, I outlined the importance of thinking strategically. That's the kind of mindset the very, very good Civ players have. Everything is done with a purpose. You don't aimlessly do things. You make sure the actions you're making have a strategic purpose. So the reason I'm building temples, for example, is because of this feature in my religion. I get 3 culture minus 1 gold for temples. So getting my temples up is a nice culture boost, which in turn is going to help me get into patronage, later get into rationalism. markets so I can get my East India, which in my capital will give me an extra trade route. And I want to buy another missionary. In this kind of game, I'd be worried about being attacked, so I'll build some barracks, maybe pre-build some units. National Epic wouldn't be a bad idea. I'm generating a lot of great person points in my capital. I have 500 gold. It wouldn't be a terrible idea to sink some into the Mombasa. As I'm growing, I grow into production because I'm a production focus, and then I assign the tiles to what I want them to work. Got my happiness deal ending turn 90, so I've got to have 8 happiness ready, so to not go unhappy there. Once I finish that market, I can build my East India and my capital. So I've generated a scientist here, and I would say generally, when you've got a yield this much, it's over 1,000. If I planted this would be 8 science. 8 science with my science modifier ends up being about 15 science altogether. Think how many turns. We're talking about, even with the total increasing later on, 50 or 60 turns to pay this back off. I just want to build this scientist. Get into industrialization as quick as I can. Now I can engineer the tower. Get another trade route next turn. Get a spy too. As you sort of grow, you'll have some cities which are farther ahead in production than others, It's usually out of those cities I build the extra stuff, like extra caravans, military units, while these cities kind of work to catch up. Build East India Company afterwards. Or maybe I'll do Forbidden Palace. The happiness will be nice. Probably need the happiness more at the moment. Because in turn 90 I lose my... This is a trick that you can use. I'm about to enter industrial. I've got a great person. I could plant it immediately, but I think I'm going to hold it because my coal might spawn in an unlucky place. I'm specifically thinking one of these hills. I actually had my camp right here, so it could also be on one of these hills. I want to be ready for when I enter industrial so I can improve my coal immediately. Building a zoo for a little extra happiness is a good idea. Get another scientist in 4 turns. So that'll be when I enter industrialization. Dubai looks good. More happiness. I could have put money into Mombasa here, but you know, thinking in this sort of game mentality, I've got a very strong game. What I'd be worried about is being attacked, so I'm keeping gold because I'd want to be able to upgrade units if I was attacked. I'll open rationalism here, generate scientists a bit faster. Generally, the principle is you want to do 2 or 3 policies into another tree after you open it, and then you want to be getting into rationalism and ideology because those policies are so strong. So I could take the extra science from city-states, but I'm only allied to 4. It's not this hill as well. Want truffles here. Mongolia had truffles. Not anymore. Oh, no, I just got it. Fulfilled the quest, that's why. So, this is turn 89 into industrialization. That's pretty strong. And having a pretty strong game, I'd expect to win this game, even in a very strong lobby.
If you pick
My coal is right there. The one hill I didn't have a thing prepared. Also coal right there. Oh, wait. I'll stop putting the motion up over there. It's important to get that improved, to get my ideology as soon as possible. And also because the sooner I'm finished my factories, the sooner I'm building public schools. This about wraps up where I wanted to just sort of show this playthrough. The important thing in this kind of mid-game, because there are a million different things you can do in a million different game situations, and there's no way to encapsulate that all in a single video. But the main thing you want to do, and the main thing I hope this that you take away from this video, is that you want to have a focus. You want to have a clear idea of what your strategy is, what you're doing, and you want to pursue that relentlessly. Don't get distracted. Don't build stuff you don't need. Think about what is going to make you relevant. Hammers and science. What is going to give you a chance if you're a bit more advanced? What is going to win you the game? What is going to give you that edge? What is going to put you in a position to challenge? I see so many players. They spend the middle part of the game aimless. They don't know what they're going for. Maybe they'll go for architecture to build porcelain tower, and that delays their public schools for so long, because then they try and go factories for ideology, and then they're building their factories late, and then they're building their public schools late. And what was the point of going for public porcelain tower in the first place? Or I'll see players do things like they'll go to astronomy. They'll build observatories for an extra 5 science, when instead they could have been going to industrialization, getting their factories, getting their public schools. Or sometimes I'll even see players do things like tectometallurgy first, so that they can build a red fort, which fine wonder. But think about what you're giving up. what are your priorities when you're playing in the middle of the game? What are you trying to do? I had a very clear purpose. I'm trying to ally these sort of city-states around me by going patronage, and then really improve my science by opening rationalism, getting to public schools early. If you don't have a similar focus in your games, you're going to run into these problems. You can say, yes, you had a very strong start. Of course, you're having a strong mid game. But that's beside the point. I see so many players mess up strong starts because they just don't know what to do after. Or if they know what to do, they're not sort of pursuing it fast enough. You should have a clear idea in your head by about turn 50 of what you want to do, or at least what your priorities are. The next time you play, think about every decision you make in terms of what is this giving me and what am I giving up? Because that's the mentality of the players who win games, is that they're assessing every decision based on how much it helps them. If you have comments or questions, leave them in the comments under the video.